Hello everyone, today we're discussing chapter 11 in the ebook, specifically the foreign exchange. So what is foreign exchange? Foreign exchange is the conversion of one currency into another at a specific rate known as the foreign exchange rate. So most sellers or traders mas prefer nila gumawa ng transaction where the exchange is nasa highest peak. So, doon kasi mas malaki yung profit. So, kikita ka if trader ka or seller. Then, exchange rate movements. Changes in interest rate, growth, global competitiveness, and the relative economic outlook in each economy are just few examples of the things that an exchange rate movement might reflect. So meaning, yung foreign exchange rate, minimeasure niya din if that country is nag-a-appreciate or nag-depreciate versus dun sa currency ng ibang lugar. So meaning, yung current events, in terms of na may epekto sa economy, dun din nagre-reflect yung exchange rate movements niya. So, next is the direct versus indirect quotation. So, ito, malaki yung part niya dun sa foreign exchange kasi dito magre-reflect how much one currency versus another currency. So, direct quotation is where the cost of one unit of foreign exchange is given in units of local currency. For example, is $1 is dollar versus 2 pesos. So, $1 today is equivalent to 55.1 peso. So, sa indirect naman is where the cost of one unit of local currency is given in units of foreign currency. So, dito naman sa indirect is 1 peso versus dollars naman. So, para makuha yun, i-divide mo lang yung 1 dun sa current currency natin. So, 1 divided by 55.1. So, yung equal nun, ayun yung value natin dun sa dollar. So, ito rin yung example natin. $1 is equals to 1 euro. So, i-divide mo lang siya para makuha tong 1.0.8. So, sa next case, magre-reflect din dito yung direct and indirect quotation.
So, the next would be the case of Iceland and Greece. So, in this case, i-explain yung ginawa nung Iceland para mag-acquire sila ng mga assets and income. So, yung mangyari dito is, it stated that the three of Iceland's recently privatized banks decided to enter the high-risk world of investment banking. So, what happened is that they borrowed money or funds para makabili ng mga assets na in-acquire nila, which is yung Beverly Hills condos, British soccer teams, and Danish airlines. So at that time, the prices of the assets they purchased were rising faster than the interest rates they were paying. So what happened is that they borrowed money, and since nag-acquire ng income yung mga assets na binili nila, nanghiram sila, mas lumaki yung hiniram nilang money doon sa mas malaki yung hiniram nilang money kasi nga ang belief nila is acquire siya ng income. However, noong 2006, the banks were finding it difficult to borrow money from other banks, so they started borrowing through the internet, mostly from depositors living in the UK. So basically, nanghiram na lang sila sa mga British consumers instead sa bank kasi nga bumaba yung value ng krona. So noong 2006, yung value ng krona is nag-depreciate siya, and yung domestic prices, which is yung sa British, is nag-soar siya. So, yung nangyari is yung consumer debt, which is yung utang nila sa mga British, is umabot ng 8 times than the national income. That's why yung krona nag-depreciate, and paying back foreign loans will be difficult for Iceland citizens since mas malaki na nga yung utang nila kaysa sa kinikita nila or sa ina-acquire nila dun sa mga assets na binili nila. And then, yung reason kung ba't sila nakahiram sa mga British consumers is that because they offer the highest interest rates available, and British consumers sold pounds to buy krona to deposit in Icelandic banks. So, yung ginawa ng mga Icelanders is that nag-offer sila ng matataas na interest rates sa mga British consumers para makabili sila ulit ng assets. Kasi nga, yung belief nila is that nag-acquire ng mas malaking income yung assets nila kesa dun sa interest rate na binabayaran nila. So next is, why do people want to trade one currency for another? So it says here that imagine that an Icelander wants to buy a Land Rover built in the United Kingdom. Before she can purchase an imported car, imagine that our Icelandic consumer must pay for the car in pounds. So the exposition is simpler if we pretend that the consumer exchanges krona or ISK for pounds or GBP and then buys the imported car herself. So technically, let me give you an example. So for example, you're a foreign citizen na bumibili dito sa Philippines. So syempre, hindi ka naman makakabili in your own currency. That's why you will be needing to exchange it or to convert it on their own currency.
So in relation with the case, I'm going to explain further. So we say that the Icelander demands pounds in order to purchase British goods. So just like what happened earlier, in order to purchase British goods, you must first convert krona into pounds. So in order for the Icelanders to buy British goods, they must first convert their currency to British currency. And to further go on, every time you see the word sell, think of supply, and every time you read the word buy, think of demand. So this is what happens when you sell krona to buy pounds. And on the other side of transaction are those who want to sell pounds to buy krona. So vice versa. So moving on, the supply of pounds includes everyone in Great Britain who wants to buy Icelandic goods and services or who wants to invest in Iceland. So British people were, kumbaga nainganyo sila dun sa in-offer ng Iceland. So what they did is that they invest their pounds into krona so that they can input money into Icelandic banks. So here, the market for foreign exchange brings together the demanders of pounds and the suppliers of pounds. Then the equilibrium price is the exchange rate or the price of a pound measured in krona. So here, you will see that the demanders of pounds are the Icelandic people, and the supplier of pounds are the British people. So this foreign exchange brings them together, and the equilibrium price is the exchange rate or the price of pound measured in krona. The next slide, you will see this question. So for my question, for our group's question, you can see here that there's a graph in which 2006 you'll see that the value of krona, the value of pounds depreciated, and if you will observe, it appreciated the year forward. So if you will observe this data, could we say that krona or pound either depreciated or appreciated through time?
So this graph represents the foreign exchange between the Great British Pound and the Icelandic krona. As you can see in the years 2003 to 2008, there is no drastic changes between the foreign exchange of both currencies. However, in the year 2009, you can see that the line graph has drastically escalated, in which it represents that the number of krona that needs to buy a pound increases. That's why it resulted to the depreciation of the krona and the appreciation of the British pound. Okay, so from the point of view of the Icelanders, they utilized the currency. Icelanders borrowed pound in order to invest domestically. So when we talk about the concept of carry trade, it is where a country or an investor will borrow a money in one currency at a low interest rate and invest it in a currency that has a higher interest rate in order to gain a return. And that is what the islanders did. Here, when the cost of borrowing domestically increases, Icelanders finds a cheaper source of funds, which means they borrow from foreign countries with lower interest rates. In this way, they can be able to regain their own currency and they can be able to invest in their own domestic banks in order to circulate the currency that they have. And then they sold the borrowed products to buy krona, which is the currency that they have. For the supply of pounds in Iceland increases, the pound depreciates because it resulted in the increase of the supply of the krona, which they reacquired.
Now moving towards to the krona versus pound, the missing piece is that the Iceland's foreign borrowing was occurring at the same time as increased import consumption, which is to consume imports, Icelanders sold krona to buy pounds because they thought that in order to buy foreign goods, they need to use the foreign currency, which leads to the exchange of krona to buy pounds. The exchange rates did not change because demand for the pound was increasing at the same time supply was increasing. The fall in 2008. Yes. However, after the run of the Icelandic banks, many investors sold kronas to buy pounds, which leads to higher exchange rate. So this means the demand for pounds increase. An increase in demand leads to higher prices, which is the reason that pound appreciated. Next slide, please. Okay, alternatively, we could analyze these movements by using the supply and demand for krona, which the chapter 8 represents. So the trick here is realizing that the supply of pounds, those who sell pounds to buy krona, is also the demand for krona. Similarly, demand for pounds, those who sell krona to buy pounds, is also the supply of krona, which is, they are inversely to each other. So the price of krona measured in pounds is the inverse of the price of a pound measured in the krona. When the pound appreciated from 125 to 200 krona, we could say that the krona depreciated from 0.008 pounds to about 0.005 pounds. Next. But I have a question. Is it complicated? Well, if yes, then you are in the right path. Because, next slide please, the difficult part is keeping track of your frame of reference or perspective as to currency. If you are looking at it from the point of view of pounds, it is a demand increase that leads to a pound appreciation. However, if you are looking at it from the point of view of krona, it is a supply increase that leads to a krona depreciation. Since the pound appreciation is a krona depreciation, both frames give you the same answer. So going back from the question, next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. Going back from the question, could we say that the krona or pound either depreciated or appreciated? Well, the answer is it depends on the perspective. If you are in the perspective of pounds, it is appreciated. But if you are in the perspective of the krona, your currency is depreciated. But both answers are correct.